Welcome back, Brooklyn Nets fans. I have not done a Nets podcast in a while. I think it's been like 5 games since that Milwaukee Bucks loss. The Nets have been 3-2 in that time. They lost to Portland. They lost that game to OKC, where basically the entire team minus Harden was out. So take it with a grain of salt. Saw that awesome win versus the Bulls. I wanted to do a reaction that night, but it was a 10 o'clock game. It was late as hell. I was like, I can't do this. So no, I had to wait. Anyway. Wish I can come with better news, but unfortunately, we saw what happened last night with Kevin Durant. Now, it could have been worse. That's number one. Try to be half glass full about these injuries. Kevin Durant had an MCL sprain last night as Bruce Brown tried to take a charge and went down, and his, I think, left or right hand went on Kevin Durant's knee, pushed it inwards, and yeah. So Kevin Durant's out for a bit now, maybe a month, month and a half, 2 months. Knowing the Nets, they might be a little extra careful with him. Of course, they need Kevin Durant to win a championship. We know that. No surprise there. So, there's also some positives to talk about. We'll talk about Dayron Sharp's emergence, Kessler, Edwards, and even Cam Thomas the past 5 games or so. We'll talk about the young guys. We'll talk about the Nets going forward. James Harden looking better. There's a lot to get to. So hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Leave a like. It would help a lot. And let's get into it. So as for the Kevin Durant injury, we'll start there and kind of how long he might be out for and what the Nets have upcoming in the next couple months or so. The next 11 out of 17 games, which is until the All-Star break, Kyrie Irving can play in those games, so it's going to help, of course. It's a lot better than just having only James Harden and a bunch of role players, of course. So at least Kyrie, for majority of these games, will be able to play. Now, will he stay healthy in that time? Well, I don't know. We already saw him almost get injured in that Portland game. Whether it was a dirty play or not, you can be the judge of that yourself. But, we already saw him possibly go down for a little bit, but luckily he didn't miss any time with that. So that was scary. And we saw James Harden come down on his elbow very hard last night after the Kevin Durant injury. And I was like, this game just has to end, man. We can't be doing this no more. So anyway, that's the good news, though. More Kyrie than without Kyrie the next, 2 weeks or so, or 3 weeks, I should say, until Kevin Durant is hopefully back. So last year, of course, when Harden and Kyrie played while Kevin Durant was out, the Nets went 16-3. They were rolling through February and March last year. Kevin Durant missed like half the regular season with a hamstring injury. So yeah, I kind of want to compare it to last year because KD missed a lot of time during the season, around this time actually. Then he came back for the playoffs and was arguably the best player in the playoffs minus Giannis, because the Bucks went further and Giannis put up ridiculous numbers. But we saw what KD was able to do in that Bucks series, despite basically being the only healthy star on the Nets in that series. So, Kevin Durant was fine despite coming back from the injury, and hopefully this is a similar case, because we all know as Nets fans, the most important time for the Nets starts in April or late April when the playoffs start. It'd be great to have Kevin Durant for the regular season. I have yet to witness a Brooklyn or New Jersey Net win an MVP in my lifetime. I was hoping this could be the year for it, and Kevin Durant had a real shot to win the MVP. But if he misses 6 to 8 weeks, it's probably not going to happen. There's guys emerging, like Joel Embiid now is playing very well. Of course, Giannis is going to be in there. So yeah, I don't expect Kevin Durant to win that anymore. Maybe James Harden, if he has a huge second half, can do it, but I'm not counting on that. So that's a bit unfortunate as well. But, you could put some positives on it, of course. That the season's not season ending. Of course, Kevin Durant should be back by at least March, I would say. So we have that going for us. And there's just less minutes on his body now. Kevin Durant was playing a lot of minutes for the Nets. We know that. A lot of people hate how many minutes he played, myself included in some instances. I think sometimes Steve Nash kind of unnecessarily puts his stars out there. Like we saw last game against the Pelicans. They were up like 25 points in the fourth quarter, and James Harden played like, I would say, 9 of the 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. And I'm like, is that really necessary? Like, you have to play James Harden, and like, come on, you can't just bench him and just see what happens. Like, if the Pelicans make a little run and cut it to 15, put Harden back in. Like, what the hell are you doing? So that kind of annoyed me. But yeah, so the people that really want Kevin Durant's minutes cut down, you're gonna get your wish here. So of course you don't want that to happen via injury, but that's the way it happened here. So basically, Adrian Wojnarowski said this morning that the Nets come out of their All-Star break on February 24th. It's a realistic benchmark for Kevin Durant's return. The organization will have caution when it comes to Durant's timeline, of course, and 11 of their next 14 games are on the road. We'll see what happens, but based on how well they played together last year, yes, Joe Harris was healthy at that time. It was a bit different, but just based on how they played last year together, it worked out very well. So I'm hoping as a Nets fan they can kind of just maybe be slightly above 500 in the next 20 games or so. Like, that's what I'm hoping for. Maybe go like 12-10, 13-9, something like that, because there are some tough games coming up for the Nets, unfortunately. And without Kevin Durant, you have to have realistic expectations. Of course, it could be a lot better. Maybe they go 15-5. Maybe Kyrie and Harden just gel once again and it works out perfectly. But these home games coming up where Kyrie cannot play is what scares me, because we've seen some lineups this year where James Harden's the only guy, and James Harden does play very well in those games, but like, you also worry about where else you're getting offense from. But we're also seeing the younger guys starting to play more. Cam Thomas has been a lot better lately, so we'll get into that, of course. But yeah, for the Nets without Kevin Durant for the next 15, 20 games, whatever the hell it's going to be, it sucks, obviously, but I'm just very thankful it's not season ending, because that would really make me depressed. So I'm just happy that we at least will get him back at some point. If I had to guess, I'll try to make a guess right now when I think he might come back. Of course, that Bucks-Nets game, Bucks are home, February 26th, is like, that's when we want to have him back, but I'm trying to be realistic about this. Like, I would say maybe March 3rd, home game against the Miami Heat. They have 3 games off after that, or maybe they would wait for the next game. Maybe, all right, let's go with this. March 6th at Boston. That would be my guess. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just going to guess that Kevin Durant comes back March 6th at Boston. I think that's going to be like a Sunday game, I'm pretty sure. 6 o'clock game. Or no, 1 o'clock game. Sorry. So 1 o'clock game on a Sunday, I believe that is. So maybe that's the realistic return for KD. I have no idea. I'm just guessing here. So once again, it's not what you want. You don't want your superstar player, best player on the team, possibly best player in the world, to get injured, but it is what it is. So, it could be a lot worse, and in a way, I'm thankful that it's just an MCL sprain and not a season-ending type injury. So I want to get on to some more positive news. Cam Thomas, the 20-year-old rookie, a guy who recently in that Spurs game, I think was the youngest player since 2018 when it was De'Aaron Fox to make a game-winning shot, so that was cool for him. But Cam Thomas, the past 3 out of 4 games here, has looked really good. Just looking at his stat sheet, we'll start with the at Portland game when the Nets lost, of course, but in that game, Cam Thomas was 8 of 12, 21 points. He had 3 rebounds. Then in that game versus OKC, he caught fire. It was mostly in the fourth quarter, but overall a good game. 33 minutes in that game, one of his highest of the season, 21 points, shot 8 of 18, which is not as efficient, but still fine for a guy who's a scoring guard. And then this past game against New Orleans, played 35 minutes, which might be a season high. Now he played 36 in a game, but still, he's one of his highest of the year. He had 20 points on 9 of 13, shooting a 69.2% field goal percentage, and shot 40% from 3. So, like, Cam Thomas, even though he is 20 years old barely, born in 2001, holy crap, I'm old. But anyway, so Cam Thomas is really starting to come into his own, and, there were some people questioning before the year started, what type of role would Cam Thomas have on this team? But as Nets fans, something always goes wrong. We know that. So, of course, now with Kevin Durant out, one of the, if not, probably, the best scorer on the Nets, who am I kidding? But without him, Cam Thomas has to pick up the slack. But with the way he's played the past 4 out of 5, 3 out of 4 games here, he's looked a lot better. So can Cam Thomas pick up some of what Kevin Durant was doing? Hopefully. No one's replacing Kevin Durant entirely. We know that. But if Cam Thomas can play like this and continue to play with confidence, then, hey, maybe we have something here. Maybe he can help carry the offense in home games, especially when Kyrie Irving is not active. Next, we have another guy, a rookie, who was also a big surprise for this Nets team. I did not expect much from him this year, admittedly, but he's actually younger than Cam Thomas by a month. It's Dayron Sharp, and Sharp coming out of UNC, there was things to like, of course. His touch around the basket, had good hands, a good passer for a big man. He was very good at boxing out, crashing the boards. There was things to like, but I did not expect him to overtake a lot of guys on this rotation depth chart, if you will. Coming into the year, he was behind LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, some other guy I'm forgetting now. You can put James Johnson in the center if you want. I don't care. But there was a lot of guys that Dayron Sharp had to overcome. Nick Claxton as well. Now Claxton has an injury, so he's out for a bit. Not long term, I don't believe. But anyway, he's played a lot more the past 4 games or so here, and it starts with the Portland Trailblazers game where he shot 6 of 6, had 14 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks in that game, and he's just been such a difference maker for this Nets team. Like, James Harden and the Nick Claxton pick and roll game sometimes works out perfectly. But Nick Claxton is he's not generally a pick and roll type guy. I just don't view Nick Claxton like that. Nick Claxton playing at Georgia was a guy that was supposed to be like this point forward, ball in his hands a lot, and he's had to make this adjustment in the NBA to being a guy that's more of a role player, more of a slasher, more of just a finisher at the rim as compared to what he was in college. But Dayron Sharp at least always had this role of being that pick and roll guy, and he's worked out very well with James Harden so far. I mentioned how Dayron Sharp has great hands, so when James Harden gives him those tough passes with a little velocity on him, you see Dayron Sharp come down with it. He's very good at just angling his shots off the backboard, really good at finishing at the rim. So he was great in that first game. Then he plays at Chicago, the Nets blowout game. He started in that game, I believe, had 20 points. He had 7 rebounds. He played 22 minutes, 10 of 14 shooting, so he was very effective in that game, had a block as well. Then in that Thunder game 2 games ago, he played 20 minutes, only 4 points. I mean, didn't do much, 6 rebounds, 1 block, 1 assist, so that wasn't really a great game for him. But the last game here, the one against the Pelicans that we saw last night, he played 27 minutes, 6 of 14, which is not great for a center, but he did have 12 points, he had 10 rebounds, had a block, so he's just been a difference maker so far. He's not going to end up being the best center in the NBA this year. It's not going to happen, right? But if Dayron Sharp can just be a solid role piece, because one of my biggest concerns with this Nets roster was not having enough natural centers, and part of me still wants to trade for one or maybe sign one who gets waived at some point this year, but part of me also wants to believe that maybe Dayron Sharp is that guy. He's still just 20 years old, barely 20, but maybe Dayron Sharp's that guy who can just be our 15, 20 minute per game center who switches off with Nick Claxton and can be that pick and roll guy with James Harden, can finish at the basket, get the offensive rebounds, because he's been such a good offensive rebounder. I mean, honestly, Dayron Sharp has kept so many possessions alive. There was one last night where I think he had 2 offensive rebounds in the same possession, and he kicked out to Kevin Durant for a straightaway 3-pointer, and he made it. So just keeping possessions alive like that, Dayron Sharp's been unbelievable in that category. So I don't know if he can keep that up, but I've been very surprised so far. So I think Dayron Sharp, though, fits an important piece to this Nets team that we were missing. Just that natural center, that guy who can catch lobs, roll to the basket, finish at the rim with ease, offensive rebounder, really good at boxing out, by the way. I love that about his game. He's a good passer. He had that one pass last night where I think he was under the basket, got the rebound maybe. I think it was a play out of a timeout, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, he got the ball like basically under the basket and just threw like this one-handed like underhand pass to Patty Mills for a 3-pointer. Like he just very crafty with the ball in his hands for a center, I must say. So, I don't know if Dayron Sharp's going to be that guy, being the starting center in the playoffs and whatnot, but it's a great story so far. I wouldn't mind if the Nets traded for another natural center, a guy that plays Dayron Sharp's role, so we don't have to rely on him that much. Because, relying on a 20-year-old center, rookie, late first-round pick to be that guy in the playoffs is a lot to ask for, but maybe this is who he is. I don't know. Maybe this could be the Dayron Sharp we see the rest of the year. So I don't know if the Nets want to count on that, but hey, he's been very impressive so far, and it's great to see how well this Sean Marks rookie class here in 2021/2022 is playing so far. Even Kessler Edwards, the other rookie, the second-round pick out of Pepperdine, he's been playing well recently too, the last 3 games or so. I mean, he's been playing 29 minutes, 25 minutes, and 37 minutes in this past game. He had 16 points in this last game, actually. Shot 6 of 10 yesterday, 4 of 5 from 3, which is great. 2 assists, 6 rebounds, 16 points. I mean, he's another guy that, I was not expecting anything from this year whatsoever, but he's come in here and he's produced. He's a guy that's lanky, can play good defense, can defend multiple positions. He's been a good shooter. I think he's shooting 41% from 3 so far this year. And honestly, he's got some sneaky bounce. I had no idea he can jump that high. He had that one putback dunk, I think 2 games ago, the OKC game. It was crazy. It was like a one-handed putback dunk. I was not expecting that. So to see him play at this level, though, has been very encouraging so far, and hopefully the Nets have found something here. He's an older rookie, 21 years old for this team, but just the past 3 games, he's been playing more. As I mentioned, the first game at Chicago, shot 4 of 8, 9 points. He had 3 steals in that game, which is great. And I remember in that Bulls game, the Nets were down like 8-4. It was early, but he hit like a big straight-on three-pointer, make it 8-7. Just big shots like that kind of helped the momentum swing in the Nets' favor. So I liked what I saw in that game. The OKC game, it wasn't as great. Shot 40% from the field, 4 of 10. 0 of 3 from three-point range, but he did have 9 points, 2 rebounds. It just wasn't the best Kessler-Edwards game. He had a big block in that game, I think, too. He came from behind on somebody and just swatted it to like the 5th row behind the basket, so that was cool. But yeah, I mean, it's another guy where I don't know if Kessler-Edwards, when Joe Harris comes back, will play a whole lot, but just he's at least shown he could be a part of the rotation in the playoffs. I do think that. I think as a bench piece, maybe Kessler-Edwards, until Joe Harris comes back, should be playing at least 20 minutes per game. I don't know if he'll slow down or hit a rookie wall at some point, but right now at least he's been playing well. He's been a positive impact to this Nets team, and with Kevin Durant out, you're going to see more of Kessler-Edwards by default. So if he can hopefully come in here and just give a solid 20-25 minutes per night, it would help this team greatly going forward while KD is absent from the lineup. So I also wanted to talk about Patty Mills and James Harden. We'll start with Patty Mills here. So he had a very rough stretch for a while here. Outside of that Clippers game, he had a 5-point game, a 0-point game, a 6-point game, a 3-point game. He was playing terrible for about 4 out of 5 games. Then he started to pick it up recently. He had a bad game at Portland as well, 1 of 5 3-points, but he played very well that game at Chicago when the big three played. He had a lot more open shots, which was very noticeable, of course, made some corner threes. He was shooting 7 of 10 in that game, 6 of 8 from 3, 21 points in that game. Then Steve Nash gave him off for the Oklahoma City game the night after the Bulls game. Then he played last night, 29 minutes, 7 of 13 shooting, 21 points, and he shot 42% from 3, 3 of 7. So right now, Steve Nash looks like a genius for that move, giving Patty Mills that night off. He looked a lot better last night, and he's a big part of this team as well. If Kevin Durant's out, of course, for a while, which he will be, a guy like Patty Mills has to continue the good shooting, because the Nets, if they don't shoot well from 3, they are not a very good offense. We've seen that before since Joe Harris has been out. So you start to wonder, a guy like Patty Mills, who runs around a lot, definitely exerts a lot of energy, how tired he was at some points, and maybe he does need more rest days going forward. But if Patty Mills can shoot the ball well, that'll definitely help this offense a lot. We need a lot of games from him where he puts up 15 points, 20 points, somewhere around there. Nights where he randomly puts up 28, 32 points. Sometimes that'll happen as well. So we need more of those good Patty Mills games, not the bad ones. But I also want to talk about James Harden, who in the past 10 or 11 games or so has just looked like a different guy. And thankfully, because I don't want to act like James Harden was having the worst season ever, but it just wasn't what we were accustomed to seeing from James Harden from his time in Brooklyn last year, his time in Houston, of course. And you're starting to wonder, is this man declining? This is not good. We traded a bunch of first-round picks for the guy. We need him to be good for this championship run, hopefully, if we get there. So the past 11 games or so, ever since he came back for that game at the Lakers when he came out of protocol. So he played that game at Atlanta. The Nets had that 8-point win. Then he played at the Lakers, had a great game. Played at the Clippers, had an even better game. Then he played versus the Sixers, had another good game. Not the most efficient game, but the Nets lost that game, of course. Then there was that game home versus the Clippers, had a 34-point night. He did shoot 9 of 22. It was a loss, but James Harden did look better in that game. Just when you watch James Harden, you just see the explosiveness is there. He's finishing at the rim better. It just looks different for him, and he looks like he's getting more guys involved. He had a 16-assist game at Chicago, had a 15-assist game last night, a 12-assist game in that Sunday morning game versus the Spurs. He has just looked a lot better, and thankfully, because if the Nets want to make this title run, James Harden has to be right. I don't think the Nets get to where they want to get. Obviously, we need Kyrie Irving back. That's a big part of it. But we also need the good version of James Harden. The past 4 games, he's played very well. He had that nice stretch. So if he plays the way he has the past 11 games or so, there's been some rough games in there. That game at Milwaukee, or the game versus Milwaukee at home, which was the 12-point loss. They were down by a lot more than 12, but he had a rough night there. He didn't have the best game versus Indiana. Had a pretty rough game versus Memphis, if I remember. So there was a little stretch in there. He wasn't that great. But overall, he has looked a lot better the past 11, 10 games. So we're thankful for that, and we definitely need him because, as I said, if James Harden is not James Harden, it's going to be tough for this Nets team to get to where they want to get. So we need James Harden back, and it seems like he's in better shape now. You can just visually see there's more muscle on him now. It seems like there's less weight he's carrying, so that's definitely a good thing. So not to body shame anybody, but you can tell James Harden was not the same guy he looked like a few years ago at Houston. And now it looks like he's getting in better shape. We need that, of course. So there's some positives, and hopefully as time goes on, James Harden does shoot the ball better, which he has recently. For example, in December, he shot 27% from three. This month in January, he's shooting 33% from three. So right there, you see just a big improvement. So hopefully going forward, we see that same James Harden. Even his field goal percentage went up by a point, which, it's not that many, but it helps. So, we're seeing a better version of Harden. We have to have it come playoff time. And if he keeps trending in this direction, hopefully we get to where we want to get with him as our starting point guard. So that'll pretty much do it. I want to go over the schedule, as I always do, to close things out here, to see who the Nets have coming up here in recent games. So they play a weird time, 3 o'clock tomorrow. I think it's Martin Luther King Day, actually. That's probably why. But they play at Cleveland tomorrow, 3 p.m. game. Then they're at the Wizards. Then they're at the Spurs. And they're at the Timberwolves. It's not the toughest road trip, honestly. And you should get Kyrie Irving for most of these games, if not all of them. So that's good news. The Cavaliers are playing very well. They have a bunch of big men that are very tough, of course. So, of course, Jared Allen's having a great year. Shout out to Jared Allen. But, they might out-rebound the hell out of us and make that game difficult. So that game kind of scares me. But we should handle the Wizards, should handle the Spurs, should handle the Timberwolves for the most part. So I think the T-Wolves are playing better, if I remember correctly. But still, I think we should handle at least 3 of these games, hopefully. So if we go 3-1, I'll be satisfied. Anything less, it's a bit of a disappointment. Hopefully 4-0 is what we get. So I'll probably talk to you guys at some point, maybe after that Timberwolves game next Sunday. We play the Lakers on the next Tuesday there. So yeah, I'll probably do a video after that Timberwolves game. So we'll see what happens on this road trip here. Let's hope that Kyrie stays healthy, James Harden stays healthy, and we have no more big injuries, because right now it's getting crazy. Having KD out, having Joe Harris, Aldridge, it's just, Nick Claxton. It's just a lot of guys that are important to this team are not playing right now, and we need it. So we'll see what happens here on this road trip. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys next time.